Today, we are taking a deep dive into one of history's most notorious diseases, tuberculosis. But forget everything you think you know. We're not just talking about a simple cough. We're going to investigate how TB truly earned its reputation as a master of disguise, showing up with an absolutely baffling range of symptoms. So let's get into it.
You know, it's a question we all ask ourselves. But in the world of tuberculosis, this question, it's the key that unlocks a really complex diagnostic mystery. It's the very first clue in a story that, as you'll see, can unfold in almost any part of the human body.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with that classic cough, then we'll look at the two different faces of TB. We're going to cover the symptoms you expect, in the lungs, and then the ones you really don't. And finally, we'll piece it all together to see why decoding these clues is just so critical.
So, let's start with the main event, the symptom that everyone connects with TB, that persistent cough. It is the most common signal, but the tricky thing is, it has this incredible way of hiding in plain sight.
95%. Think about that. When TB is active in someone's lungs, a persistent, relentless cough is the single most reported symptom. We're not talking about a little tickle in your throat. This is a cough that just will not go away.
And here's the really crucial part. It's sneaky. The symptoms, that cough included, they don't just pop up overnight. No, they creep in, really gradually, over weeks, sometimes even months. It's so slow that it's easy to blame it on something else, right? Allergies, a change in the weather, or just being stressed out. This slow burn is exactly why getting a diagnosis can take so long.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the symptoms, or sometimes the total lack of symptoms, we have to talk about the two completely different states of this infection. You can almost think of it as TB's secret identity.
First, just a quick baseline so we're all on the same page. Tuberculosis is, at its core, an infectious disease. It's caused by a bacterium called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And while, it has a major reputation for attacking the lungs, this thing is capable of setting up shop in pretty much any part of the body.
This right here is key. This slide shows you the two sides of the coin. Over on one side, you've got latent TB. This is where the bacteria are in your body, but your immune system has them cornered, walled off. It's like a sleeper agent. You have zero symptoms, you can't spread it. But then, on the other side, there's active TB disease. This is when the bacteria have broken out. Now you feel sick, you have symptoms, and you might be contagious. Both need treatment, but for totally different reasons.
Okay, so when that sleeper agent finally awakens in the lungs, that's when we get the classic picture of TB. This is what's known as pulmonary tuberculosis. These are pretty much the symptoms you'd expect to find in any medical textbook.
And this is what's known as the classic triad. You're looking at about 3/4 of patients experiencing a fever, which is often low-grade but persistent. Over half report unexplained weight loss, and nearly half suffer from night sweats so bad they can actually drench the bed sheets. When you see these three together, it's a huge red flag for doctors.
And of course, that triad rarely travels alone. It's often joined by these other telltale signs. A cough that brings stuff up, sometimes even blood. There's chest pain, feeling out of breath, just a general sense of fatigue and weakness, and losing your appetite, which obviously feeds into that weight loss we just mentioned.
All right, so far it might seem pretty straightforward, right? Cough, fever, makes sense. But this is where tuberculosis really shows you why we call it a master of disguise. We are now going way beyond the lungs.
This is how it does it. The bacteria can actually escape the lungs, they travel through the bloodstream or the lymphatic system, and they can set up a new infection almost anywhere. The brain, the spine, the kidneys, you name it, it's all fair game.
And the official name for this is extrapulmonary TB, or EPTB for short. It's active TB disease, but it's happening somewhere other than the lungs. Suddenly, the symptoms have nothing to do with breathing and everything to do with whatever part of the body is under attack.
And listen, this isn't some super rare thing either. In a place like the United States, about 1 in every 5 active TB cases is found only outside the lungs. That could mean no cough, maybe even a totally normal chest x-ray, but the disease is still there, active, and doing damage.
I mean, just look at this list. The range of symptoms is absolutely incredible. If it's in the lymph nodes, you get swollen glands. In the spine, it's called pot disease, and it just feels like bad back pain. In the brain, it can cause meningitis. In the kidneys, blood in the urine. It can even infect your adrenal glands, leading to fatigue and a really strange craving for salt.
Now, of all those wild possibilities, an infection of the lymph nodes is actually the most common. It usually shows up as painless swelling, typically in the neck.
And historically, this condition had a pretty fascinating name. It was called scrofula.
And that name, scrofula, it leads to this amazing piece of history. For centuries, people called it the king's evil, and there was a genuine belief that it could be cured simply by the touch of a king or queen. It just goes to show you how long this disease, in all its different forms, has been tangled up in human history.
So, wow, we've seen the cough, we've seen the night sweats, and now we've seen these bizarre signs, everything from back pain to salt cravings. So let's try and tie this all together and really understand why recognizing this huge spectrum of symptoms is so incredibly important.
So here's the problem in a nutshell. The symptoms are just vague. Back pain? I mean, that could be anything. Fatigue? Who isn't tired these days? It starts slow, and it is an expert mimic. It can look like Crohn's disease if it's in the gut, or even look like lung cancer on an X-ray. And all of this leads to one really dangerous outcome: the diagnosis gets delayed or sometimes missed entirely.
And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. For everybody, patients and doctors alike, just understanding that a persistent, nagging symptom, no matter how weird or unrelated it seems, could be a sign of tuberculosis, well, that's our first line of defense. Awareness is what puts TB on the list of possibilities in the first place, and that is absolutely the most critical step toward getting the right diagnosis.
So I'll just leave you with this thought. Tuberculosis isn't really one disease. It's a disease with 1,000 different faces. And recognizing that fact isn't just a piece of medical trivia. It is, without a doubt, the most powerful tool we have for catching this master of disguise before it can do any more harm.